And good morning, and welcome to the Teach What You Know 2 Summit. I'm Tony Wilkins, the host and creator of the conference. And the reason why I created this was because we did one of these Teach What You Know summits a couple of months ago. It went really, really well, and a lot of the speakers were asking, would you do this again? And part of what we want to do with these virtual summits is give speakers an opportunity to teach what they know to the world. That's the reason why it's called Teach What You Know. And so all the speakers over the next 2 days, it's going to be today and tomorrow, all the speakers will have an opportunity to teach what they know in 30-minute increments. Attendees can ask questions. We'll probably do a quick roundtable and open up the discussion. And so it's always relaxed, a lot of fun, and you'll always learn something. So just to get some business out of the way, each speaker will speak for approximately 30 minutes. The speakers can make an offer after giving their content. Each speaker presentation is recorded, so please make sure we can see and hear you. Since I don't edit the presentations, please make sure you don't say anything you don't want out there. If you're not speaking at the time, please mute your mic and take yourself off camera so as not to distract the person giving their presentation. If you need to go off camera to get lunch or go to the bathroom, please do so off camera. And please eat your lunch off camera as well, because nobody wants to see you eat. Attendees will be able to ask speakers questions after the speaker's presentation. If there are no questions, we go on to the next speaker. Presentations will be uploaded to Facebook and speakers will be tagged in the post. Please share your video with people you want to get in front of. This is a great way to walk away with new business, speaking opportunities, etc. So today, I want to give just a short talk about how to make shit happen. Which is the title of my new book, How to Make Shit Happen. And the reason why I decided to call it How to Make Shit Happen and I decided to create this talk was because at every event, I always get at least one person who says, how do you do everything you do? How do you do the radio show? How do you do the movies you produce? How do you do the books, speaking engagements, etc.? And the answer is pretty simple. Number one, I never do anything I really don't want to do. That was a lesson that I learned many, many years ago. There's nothing worse than doing something just for the money and not for the love of it. So one of my main rules many years ago was to never take on a project that I wasn't going to have fun with. I wasn't going to enjoy. Money isn't everything, but money helps, obviously, but if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it could be miserable no matter how much money you make. And here's a case in point. Once upon a time, I was one of the highest paid B2B telemarketers in Chicago and then in San Francisco. And I was making a lot of money, but I really, really wasn't happy doing what I was doing. As a matter of fact, I was so miserable, I contemplated suicide. Because when you're not honoring who you are, you go into that dark hole and it's hard to come out of it. I was clinically depressed for years and didn't realize it because I was so used to doing what I had always done. I wasn't living my dreams. I wanted to become a writer. That's about the only thing I ever wanted to be. And it wasn't until I moved to San Francisco that I said, you know what? You're in a new location. You need to do things differently. And you need to become everything that you ever dreamed that you could be and some things you never thought could possibly happen. And so it was around that time that I made the choice to never take on a project or do anything I really didn't want to do. This was over 20 years ago. And I've sort of stuck by it. So that's one way. Another way that I sort of make shit happen is by being too stupid to know what I don't know. One of the greatest accomplishments, career accomplishments that I've made is with my internet radio show. The internet radio show was something I had no intention of doing. I sort of stumbled on it because someone had invited me to be on their show, and they blew me off a couple of times. They kept saying, "Oh, we really want you to be on the show, you know, call in Friday at 3:30. And so I would, and they would not show up. And once this happened a couple of times, and they kept blowing me off, I kept going back to the site, and I suddenly realized, you know what? I need a better way to get my message out. And I saw this little tag that said, "Host your own show." And so I said, I'm going to show them, I'm going to host my own show, I'm going to do my own radio. And you got to remember, this was during a time when really no one was doing internet radio. It was sort of, podcasting was sort of a new thing. Nobody knew how to make any money at it. And so it was one of those situations where I was kind of too stupid to know what I didn't know, because I had no idea how to make money at it. It never even occurred to me that I could make money at it. I just knew that I wanted a different way, or my own way, to get my message out. So launched my radio show in 2011. It was a bit of a disaster the first year, because we had speakers that, we had guests that wouldn't show up. We had guests who would call in really late, which left me with dead air. We had callers that would flake out at the last minute. And at the time, it was a half an hour program, and I would have to fill that time. And there's nothing worse than doing a half an hour program where you're just sort of rambling. You don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of or hold a conversation with. You're just rambling. And so the first year, I'd say, was kind of a disaster, but it was learning. It was a learning experience. We had a really good time. Once I saw the numbers start to build up, we had over 10,000 listeners that first year, I believe. And I said, well, I'm putting a lot of time and energy into this. I think I want to continue doing this. How do I make money at it? And without going into too many details, I actually figured out how to generate revenue, how to attract advertisers, how to get guests on. It's rare that I have a guest that will flake out on me now. And so it all turned out. But again, it was one of those situations where I was too stupid to know what I didn't know. And so you have to be a little brave. So the third tip that I want to give everyone for making shit happen is you have to be brave enough to ask what you want. Ask for what you want. So I'll give you a really great example. If you are connected to me on Facebook, one of the things you may have noticed that I posted maybe 2.5, 3 weeks ago was that I had the opportunity to speak at Oracle. And Oracle was a company that I knew who they were, what they do. They're a huge corporation. I think the third largest corporation in the United States, possibly in the world. And I met this young woman at my Women of Influence Mountain View event, Mountain View, California. It's in the heart of Silicon Valley. And after day one, at the end of day one, she walks up to me and she says, you know, I'm really loving what you're doing, and I want to give you my card, and I'll be back tomorrow, but I want to ask you, what do you need and how can I help? Which is my two standard questions whenever I'm doing any networking. So she said, you know, I would really love to connect with you. She hands me her card, and I looked down, and it said Oracle. And immediately I look up at her because she's considerably taller than I am. Everybody is. I said, I want to speak at Oracle. And she said, really, what topics? And I, gave her a list of topics that I can cover. And she said, well, let's make that happen. And so she connected me to, after many emails and phone calls, etc., she connected me to a couple of people at Oracle who subsequently booked me to speak at Oracle. Now, Oracle was a huge opportunity for me as a speaker because it's one of those things that doesn't happen every day. And I got global exposure because what they did was they live streamed the presentation to all of their offices all over the globe. And so I got global exposure, and they have since asked me if I would come back 2 more times in 2019 to give 2 separate talks. And of course, I said yes. So it was one of those things where you have to be, if you want to make shit happen, you have to be fearless. You have to ask for what you want. You have to tell people, this is what I want. Another really quick case in point, there was a young woman who came to one of my events last year, and she reached out to me. She's going to be speaking at one of my events in the next few weeks. And she said, hey, Tony, is there anything that you need? She happened to mention that she was going to be working at Apple. She had worked with them previously. She was going to be going back and working with them. And I said, you know what? I want to speak at Apple. And she said, well, it's kind of funny you should mention that because I'm going to be one of the decision makers in terms of booking speakers at Apple. So she said, I start on Monday, and let me bring your name up and let's see what we can do to get your name out there. Now, this may happen, it may not happen, but had I not told her that this is something I'm interested in, it would never happen. And so the last tip that I want to leave you with is be willing to tell other people what it is that you want, and be specific, be direct. Tell people this is what I want in order for me to move my career forward. And because if you don't say anything, nothing happens. So those are my tips, just a few of my tips for making shit happen. So I'm going to unmute everybody. And I see we've got some new people that have logged in. And if you have any questions or comments, I am happy to answer them. If not, then we will introduce our next speaker. I am not going to make an offer. What I will tell you is that I book over 400 speakers a year on stages. I do my own workshops, everything from launching your own podcast or internet radio show to launching your writing career to getting booked as a speaker. So if you're interested in learning about any of my workshops, just connect with me on Facebook, or you can email me directly, awil267487@aol.com. And I'm Tony Wilkins. So I'm going to unmute everyone, or you can unmute yourself. And if you have any questions or comments you want to make, please feel free to make them.
Yay!
Yay! The wonderful Miss Tanya Hoffman. Thank you so much. Did you have any questions or comments? Anything you want to chime in on?
I just wanted to say, agree, yes, yes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Please unmute yourself. I see Jay Anderson is on the line. I don't see her, but I can see that she is here. Anyone else? Yes, no, maybe? There she is. Hi, Jay. I can see you. I can't hear you. There you are. Hi. How are you? I'm glad you could join us. I know you had a lot of questions, but I'm glad you could join us today. Did you have any questions or comments?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, anyone else? Yes, no, maybe? All right, Sounds good. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce the wonderful Miss Tanya Hoffman, who is the president and founder of the Public Speakers Association. And Tanya and I have known each other for a few years. She has been invaluable to me as a colleague, as a mentor, as a friend. And any time that I get to work with her is always positive. She's one of the nicest people to work with. And Tanya, I'm going to stop recording.